Yeah. Shall I, Gunjan, are you starting first with the introductory slides and a recap, or shall I do that?
Okay, let's go ahead. If you can change the slides. So welcome everyone. I know it's a smaller group compared to last, but in 5 minutes we may get to see more people. Our objective of this series is to make people aware about the root causes, as we believe, of mental health challenges. And we plan this as series of 4 talks. Each of the talks take you more into the understanding. So the first talk talked about what is inner child and how it's linked to childhood trauma, the components that we use it. In the second talk, we talked about therapeutic interventions, where, if you recall, I talked about the higher complexity or higher childhood trauma component versus lower, and how that creates different challenges, more intense challenges. In other words, it has a dose response relationship. Higher the dosage of childhood trauma or inner child, higher is the likelihood of internalization and externalization issues. Internalization issues include what happened to me within my mind, so anxiety, depression, trauma results, and so on. Externalizations include suicide behavior, self-harm, issues such as relationships, dependency on the substance, and so on. We have talked this extensively, and as you see, I showed you all the correlations between the core to the internalization, then between internalization, externalization, and also between externalization and childhood trauma. Examples I shared included our research on predicting suicide behavior, and research with led by Akash at IIT and our team. What we did was we looked at adversity in the childhood. In addition, we put several parameters of internalization and externalization, and we predict the risk for suicide behavior that includes suicidal thoughts and history of suicide attempt and plan. And we're able to go up to 95% accuracy. Current unpublished work has gone to 100%. Just so you understand that what I'm talking about is backed by extreme scientific research demonstrated consistently with several hundred samples. Now, if you can go back to the previous slide for those who are not familiar or earlier discussions, the childhood trauma. The components of
one
childhood
sec, can
trauma.
we start from the beginning, Gunjan? Because I think some people are attending for the first time. So we can just start with a little bit of introduction.
So this
Can
is
you do
talk
that,
number
and then
3.
we'll go through the beginning slide.
Today, Riri will primarily take you through the parenting elements. And again, very interesting evidence on how this trauma continues beyond generations. So when it continues from one generation to the other, it has to have an impact on parenting style, and it continues that impact on the child. So this is the another angle to the whole idea of inner child. To the next slide. Like I said, this is backed by a lot of research. I will not bore you into the details, but it will not be coming to you unless it is backed by research. Hopefully, all of you know the background and the work we do. This is talk number 3. It's an area where we have a lot of passion, and the single reason that drives me personally is that when my mother worked as a government medical officer, her primary job was saving women's life, child's life because of pregnancy, complications, nutrition. Today, women or men below age 40, primary cause of death is suicide in our country. And we have 400 million young people. That includes population of US, France, plus. Okay. So if we can understand what causes this extreme impact, then everything else from the root cause to the extreme impact can be managed effectively. We do that by doing 3 different things together. Again, a unique aspect of what we do. Workshops, so we train, we do scientific research, and do coaching. The research is primarily focused on improving our coaching and workshops. And the other component of research is awareness, like what we are doing right now. Okay. I was sharing this, that what you see is not. So it was uncanny when a couple of years back, we were able to predict in the client consultations that, and we would never teach people about asking this question, that have you attempted suicide or do you have suicidal thoughts? And we were able to predict with a very large degree of success, which was unfortunate. And that led us to the research. So what we're talking about is interconnected. And traditionally, DSM-5 or psychology or psychiatry looks at externalizing behaviors, and that is connected to internalizing behavior. We have a lot of data on childhood trauma, lifestyle choices, and more recently on social media usage as contributors or risk factors that leads to internalization and externalization. And that is the background of what we have covered up till now.
So far, yes. So
These are
now,
the components of
yeah.
some. Go ahead. Yeah, really
Yeah.
go ahead.
So when we talked of the inner child series, the entire talk webinars that we have done, of 4 webinars, the whole premise is the whole awareness around inner child work was the objective. And inner child work primarily is aimed at working with parts of us that are affected by childhood trauma. What are these childhood traumas that affect? Of course, in the talk 1 and 2, we have already covered it, but I know that many people are coming for the first time in this talk, so I will just quickly go through the slide that you see. These are the 16 elements that are covered under ACE, or adverse childhood experiences, or childhood trauma as we call it. And there is extensive research globally on how each of these elements have an impact on mental health, and how a combination of these elements also have an impact upon the mental health of adults. As you see, at wellness space also we have done a lot of research, and we have seen a dose-response relationship between a high trauma score and parameters on well-being and anxiety, depression and insomnia. So here if you see, we have, अगर आपका चाइल्डहुड ट्रॉमा के समझो 16 एलिमेंट्स हैं, तो उसमें हमने 3 लेवल्स डाले हैं. लो मतलब any 3 points from these are yes, medium is 4 to 7 and high score means 8. मतलब इसमें से 8 चीजों के लिए आपने yes बोला है. और अगर ये है, तो there is a high likelihood that such people have a very low well-being index versus say the group average, or versus the desired level, very severe level of anxiety, severe depression and severe insomnia. जितना ये स्कोर बढ़ता है, ट्रॉमा लोड ज्यादा है, उतने ही ये स्कोर्स बढ़ रहे हैं. So this is how what we have seen in our research. And as Gunjan mentioned earlier, we have published the papers. We are working with IITs to actually predict suicide behavior based on childhood experiences. अगर आप mental health practitioner हो और आपके पास clients आते हैं जिनके पास certain childhood experiences हैं already, तो high risk है कि suicide behavior और ideation का हो सकता है, तो आपको वो flag करना है. और यही चीज हमने पहले 2 वर्कशॉप्स में बात करी, बट आज जो वेबिनार है, दिस इज ऑन पेरेंटिंग. एंड व्हाट आई वुड लाइक टू शेयर इज दैट, as you see on the slide, most of these elements of childhood trauma, whether it is physical abuse, emotional neglect, domestic violence, 80% of child abuse happens at the hand of the child's own parents, and 10% is others. And the problem is that parents do this while having all good intention. There are no parents I have met who have said कि हमारे intentions गलत है, हमको जानबूझ के traumatize करना है बच्चे को. In fact, सब parents हमें यही कहते हैं कि मैम हमने तो अच्छे ही intention से जो किया था, हमें पता ही नहीं था कि ये trauma कहा जाता है, इसको abuse कहा जाता है, या इससे बच्चे पे ऐसा असर होगा. काश हमें ये पहले पता होता. And this is the reason we are doing so much of awareness. If you are following me on Instagram and Facebook, you would know that I have put up 1,500 or more reels of free content just to educate parents on childhood trauma and positive parenting. And that is the objective, because ये चीज ऐसी है कि जब डैमेज हो जाता है और लोग हमारे पास आते हैं, तो हमारा काम बहुत ही ज्यादा मुश्किल हो जाता है. तो prevention is definitely better than cure. Okay. So today's talk, which is talk number 3 out of the whole series of 4 talks, is focused specifically on parenting and how it is linked to inner child work. Because we all must remember that every parent also was a child. And if that child has gone through severe abuse and trauma that you see here, any of these elements, and because of that, they have all these और इवन दीज इंटरनलाइजिंग एक्सटर्नलाइजिंग सिम्टम्स और ये लोग फिर पेरेंट्स बनते हैं, समझिए आप। तो इनके जो अनरिजॉल्व इश्यूज है, इनके जो ट्रॉमा बिहेवियर्स हैं, ये उनके बच्चों को इफेक्ट करता ही है, उनके पेरेंटिंग स्टाइल को इफेक्ट करता ही है, ना चाहते हुए भी। तो ये कैसे करता है ये भी हमें समझना है। बट मैं हमने जो पहले दो टॉक्स में बात किया था इनर चाइल्ड वर्क और चाइल्डहुड ट्रॉमा का, उससे हमें इतना तो समझ आ ही जाता है कि इसकी इम्पैक्ट मल्टीफेसेड है, मतलब ब्रेन डेवलपमेंट पे होती है, इसकी इम्पैक्ट मेंटल हेल्थ पे होती है, फिजिकल हेल्थ पे होती है, और ये सारी चीज लेके जब पेरेंट्स बनते हैं तो इनकी पेरेंटिंग स्टाइल पे भी इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है। अगर आप ये स्लाइड देखेंगे तो आपको समझ में आएगा कि आजकल जो पेरेंट्स होते हैं उनके खुद के काफी स्ट्रेसेस हैं, उनके खुद के, लाइक मेरी मम्मी को शायद अपने पेरेंटिंग स्टाइल पे इतना स्ट्रेस नहीं था, मेरी मदर को या काफी लोग यहाँ ग्रुप में हैं, इनकी मदर्स या उनकी मदर्स को पेरेंटिंग का स्ट्रेस नहीं था, ना पेरेंटिंग के एक्सपेक्टेशंस थे, right? For them, parenting was a very normal thing. But today, parents have a lot of pressure to be the perfect parents. There is a lot of comparison and peer pressure in parenting also, in motherhood also. पेरेंट्स के खुद आजकल छोटे फैमिलीज हैं, कपल्स, वर्किंग कपल्स हैं, तो उनके वर्क स्ट्रेसेस भी होते हैं। ऊपर से ये पेरेंट्स जो हैं, इनके खुद के ट्रॉमा लोड ऑलरेडी वो लेके आते हैं, which makes them highly volatile, dysfunctional, sometimes violent, sometimes shut down, sometimes numbed out, sometimes emotionally unavailable for the child, or sometimes highly emotionally triggered, right? तो इनके मैरिटल इश्यूज भी होते हैं, कई बार चाइल्डहुड ट्रॉमा की वजह से इनके एडिक्शंस रहते हैं, वर्कहोलिज्म इज आल्सो एन एडिक्शन, वर्कहोलिक, एडिक्शन टू स्मोकिंग, ड्रिंकिंग एक्सेट्रा। अगर अगर ये दोनों हस्बैंड वाइफ खुद बहुत ट्रॉमा लोड लेके आए हैं तो इनकी शादी में भी कई बार डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस रहता है, या बिल्कुल डिस्कनेक्ट हो जाता है, इट्स लाइक टोटल डिसइंटरेस्ट डिस्कनेक्टेड कपल। तो ये सारी चीजों की वजह से पेरेंट्स डिसरेगुलेट हो जाते हैं, सोसाइटी का प्रेशर, सास ससुर का के साथ इश्यूज, इनकम्पैटिबिलिटी इश्यूज, फैमिली पॉलिटिक्स, ऑल ऑफ दिस ब्रिंग्स अ लॉट ऑफ स्ट्रेस ऑन द पेरेंट। और आजकल के बच्चों के भी स्ट्रेसेस ज्यादा हैं जो पहले के बच्चों में नहीं थे, जैसे स्कूल के एक्सपेक्टेशंस, माँ बाप के एक्सपेक्टेशंस, पीयर प्रेशर, बुलिंग, खुद के एक्सपेक्टेशंस भी बहुत रहते हैं बच्चों में, बिकॉज अवेयरनेस बढ़ी है, इंफॉर्मेशन ओवरलोड हो रहा है, दुनिया छोटी हो रही है, बच्चों को बहुत सारा एक्सपोजर अर्ली एज में मिल रहा है। इंडिया का बच्चा देखता है कि अमेरिका का बच्चा क्या कर रहा है, यूके का बच्चा क्या कर रहा है, ऑस्ट्रेलिया का बच्चा क्या कर रहा है, तो बहुत सारा कंपैरिजन होता है, स्ट्रेस होता है, पीयर प्रेशर, तो बच्चों के खुद के भी बहुत ज्यादा प्रेशर बढ़ गए जो शायद 20 या 30 साल पहले नहीं थे। And because of this, what has happened is we have dysregulated children, dysregulated parents, and the combination is a war zone at home. The house becomes extremely dysregulated. It is a war zone. And where there are three generations staying, sometimes it becomes even more difficult because all the three generations have their own styles, their own worldviews, their own perceptions. So this is a very classic situation of a toxic or a dysfunctional family environment, and there are many factors. What research says is if parents have themselves been victims of childhood abuse, it could be sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, domestic violence, then there is a high likelihood that they are going to be affected in their parenting style. So research says there is a direct association between parental ACE. ACE is adverse childhood experiences. माँ बाप के खुद के बचपन के प्रतिकूल अनुभवों का इम्पैक्ट कैसे पड़ता है? पेरेंट्स इमोशनली कई बार बच्चों के लिए अवेलेबल नहीं रहते हैं, बच्चों को अच्छे से पॉजिटिवली डिसिप्लिन नहीं कर पाते हैं। इनकी मैटरनल जो मदर्स होती है, इनकी खुद की एंजाइटी रहती है, डिप्रेशन रहता है, मेंटल हेल्थ इश्यूज रहता है, जिसकी वजह से वो अपने बच्चों के साथ बॉन्ड कर पाते तो कई बार उनकी इमोशंस नहीं समझ पाते हैं, कई बार ये मदर शट डाउन हो जाती हैं तो इमोशनली अवेलेबल नहीं रह पाती, और उनके मेंटल हेल्थ और स्ट्रेसेस इतने होते हैं कि वो फिजिकली भी कई बार बच्चों के लिए अवेलेबल नहीं रह पाती हैं। Higher levels of anxiety, depression, low self esteem, and decreased maternal confidence. Lot of these mothers who themselves are coming from traumatized childhood have a very low self-esteem, low confidence, low self-worth, and they also believe that they are not good mothers. They cannot be good mothers. When their children are showing any signs of being dysregulated, throwing tantrums, not doing well in school, the mothers will start now thinking, oh God, I have done something wrong. I am not good. I am guilty. I cannot do it well, etc., etc. This also is linked to the mother's own internal world, which is again affected by childhood trauma. बच्चों कई बार it is also connected to children being anxious, children being angry, and children also showing some sort of disturbing behaviors. Child's externalizing and internalizing problems are also linked to the mother's or parents' childhood trauma. So is violent family environment and parents and children's attachment styles. So there is enough and more research that talks about parental trauma, parents' own childhood trauma, and how it affects them as parents. What we have seen is that in our therapeutic practice, whenever we have worked with parents, they don't come to us to work on parenting styles. They come to us to work on their anxiety, depression, anger issues, marital problems, etc. Yeah. But what we have seen is when they are coming with a severe childhood trauma and baggage, they already are dysregulated, as we have seen in the first two webinars that I spoke, because it affects their brain development. There are certain parts of the brain are overdeveloped, the certain parts are underdeveloped. And their nervous system is dysregulated because if they have lived through a lot of stress in childhood, they are automatically either very anxious or very depressed, hyper vigilant, either authoritarian or controlling, or extremely permissive or completely negligent. So so these parents, when they become these children, when they grow up and become parents, they also sometimes take extreme parenting style. So either they repeat their own childhood traumas in their own parenting style with their children, or they will do completely opposite. So we've had parents who said कि हमको बचपन में बहुत मारा पीटा गया था, हमारे पेरेंट्स बहुत डिसिप्लिनेरियन थे मैम, तो अभी मेरे बच्चों को कोई डिसिप्लिन नहीं करता हूँ, मैं कुछ भी नहीं, मेरे बच्चे को सारा फ्रीडम है, उसको जो करना चाहे करे, ना पढ़े तो ना पढ़े, कोई बात नहीं. I am there for my child. There are no rules in my house. My child can do what he wants. This is also extreme parenting style. Yeah. The other extreme parenting style is because of their own childhood trauma, the parents are so disconnected with their children. They are doing everything right, like right nutrition, right diet, good clothes, taking care of the child's homework, school, friends, everything. But emotionally, they are not available for the child. Emotionally, they are shut down. और समटाइम्स जैसे हमें भी मार पीट के बड़ा किया है तो हम भी वही कर रहे हैं क्योंकि हम तो बड़े अच्छे खासे बड़े हुए तो हमारे बच्चों को भी हम वही करेंगे. So usually because the parents are themselves dysregulated, they are not able to adopt a healthy, balanced parenting style. Even when they come for parenting workshops, they learn positive parenting tools, non-violent parenting tools. When they are triggered, they are unable to adopt those because they have a very highly dysregulated trauma ridden system that makes them vulnerable to extreme behavior. So they can be physically abusive, extremely authoritarian, controlling, fear based. We have parents, mothers who will say, I was sexually abused by my relatives, so my daughter is not allowed to go to any relative's place alone, or even for 5 minutes, she cannot be alone with anybody. This is also an extreme reaction coming from own childhood trauma. Just because I was abused sexually doesn't mean my daughter will be abused. But when I do this kind of thing, I'm already putting a fear in my daughter that is not hers. Are you getting this? Yeah, I can't see faces of anybody except Mohapatra because everybody has put off their videos. I understand you're busy, but I love to talk to people and faces and not blank boxes. Uh, so this is how your own trauma history affects how you behave as parents, and that is why inner child work, inner child awareness, and understanding is extremely important. Hello, Dr. Darshana Ben, how are you? Lovely to see you here. Uh, uh, Good to see you. Okay. So this is how the trauma cycle continues, and then these children who grow up in this environment further get dysregulated and they continue the cycle. So, well, what we have seen is what can parents do? Parents if you want to really, if you feel as parents that you are carrying trauma, baggage, emotional abuse, physical abuse. I think in first and second webinar, I had spoken extensively on emotional abuse because it is not recognized in our culture. बट इमोशनल अब्यूज, इमोशनल निग्लेक्ट ऐसी सॉफ्ट और सटल चीजें हैं जो ऑब्वियस नहीं दिखती हैं, बट इसके स्कार बहुत दूर तक जाते हैं. हमने देखा है कि कई बार पेरेंट्स जब खुद अ, बड़े हुए हैं ऐसे एनवायरनमेंट में जहां उनको बहुत क्रिटिसाइज किया गया है, बहुत ह्यूमिलेट किया गया है, उनको इतना प्रेशर डाला गया, यू आर नॉट गुड, इफ यू डोंट कम फर्स्ट यू आर यूजलेस, यू आर नोबडी, यू नो यू कैन नॉट डू दिस, you cannot do that. Then when they become parents also, sometimes they become hypercritical and emotionally abusive to their own children, because I know many mothers who say कि ma'am, I was not good in studies and I know how I was bullied and how I was constantly humiliated. I don't want my child to go through what I did, so now I'm making sure my child is always doing well. But she doesn't realize that in the process there is a thin line between emotionally and physically abusing your child फॉर द लार्जर गुड. इट डजंट हेल्प एनी विच वे. तो ये छोटी छोटी चीजें हैं जो पेरेंट्स पेरेंट्स के बैगेज से अफेक्ट होती हैं. तो पहले तो पेरेंट्स को अवेयरनेस होना चाहिए कि भाई मेरी खुद की क्या पास्ट हिस्ट्री है, मेरे खुद के बॉडी में, माइंड में क्या फाइल्स हैं, जिस जो फाइल्स से मैं ऑपरेट कर रही हूँ, जिसकी वजह से मैं, जो फाइल्स मेरी लेंस बन गए हैं दुनिया देखने की, लोगों को देखने की, to look at everything. So they have to be aware about the burden that they are carrying, and so awareness is the first step. अगर आपको awareness ही नहीं है तो हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते. तो awareness होना बहुत जरूरी है. दूसरा, हमने देखा है, और मैं थोड़ा रिसर्च भी इसके बारे में शेयर करूं, कि जो पेरेंट्स अवेयरनेस के बाद खुद पे काम करते हैं, राइट, खुद सेल्फ रेगुलेट होते हैं, खुद का ट्रॉमा हील करते हैं, then they are very likely to be better parents and to be able to better manage their children. The parents who are not able to manage their children and not able to implement also the positive parenting is because they themselves are so triggered and dysregulated because of all those unhealed trauma files that they are carrying from their past. So parents, when they learn self-regulation techniques, it could be breathing, chanting, humming, EFT, self-hypnosis, different types of techniques are there. When they do self-regulation techniques and when they heal their own traumas, their relationship with their spouse and children invariably changes. And we have seen this consistently across the board, not just us, there is research to also prove it. And after this, it is important that parents learn that there are ways to positively discipline your children without violence and abuse. Building trust and connection, working on the family environment. But ये तीसरा स्टेप होगा नहीं जब तक पहले दो नहीं होते हैं. तो पहले दो होने के बाद ही तीसरा कर पाते. बहुत से लोग पेरेंटिंग वर्कशॉप में, जैसे मैंने कहा, आते हैं, पर आके सब समझते भी हैं क्योंकि लॉजिकली एवरीबडी इज क्वाइट साउंड दीज डेज. पर जब ट्रिगर हो जाते हैं तो उनका ट्रॉमा रिस्पॉन्स आ जाता है. ये सारे टूल्स नहीं इंप्लीमेंट कर पाते हैं. पर जो पेरेंट्स टूल्स के साथ साथ सेल्फ रेगुलेशन करते हैं, खुद अपने आप पे काम करते हैं, वो लोग ये सारी अच्छी चीजें भी अच्छे से सीख के इंप्लीमेंट कर सकते हैं. तो इसके लिए हम ऑलरेडी, मैंने कहा, जैसे पॉजिटिव पेरेंटिंग वर्कशॉप हम साल में 3 या 4 बार कंडक्ट करते हैं पेरेंट्स के लिए, और सेल्फ रेगुलेशन का भी करते हैं. ये एक रिसर्च है जो पूना में किया गया था, मैंने कोट किया है नीचे, जिसमें इट शोज दैट when parents worked on themselves, there was creativity and play, self-awareness and bonding, communication, etc. There, after a 1 month of working on themselves, they were able to have more confident about being better parents. They were able to give more autonomy to their children, and they were better able to solve parent-child conflicts. Yeah, we also have done research on our parenting workshops where we do teach parents को. हमारे workshop में हम self regulation सिखाते हैं और उनको parenting tools सिखाते हैं, right? और ये हम 4 या 5 सेशन में करते हैं. और इसके बाद हमने देखा गया है कि पेरेंट्स जो हमारे वर्कशॉप के पहले और वर्कशॉप के बाद अगर आप देखो तो उनका खुद का रेटिंग एज अ पेरेंट भी इंप्रूव होता है, उनकी एंजाइटी सिग्निफिकेंटली कम हो जाती है बच्चों को बड़ा करने के बारे में, उनका एंगर और वायलेंट बिहेवियर भी बहुत कम हो जाता है. We've had parents who said, "Ma'am, after I learned all these, now my children are saying that you're a different mom, you're a new mom." And sometimes my children remind me if I'm upset, "Mom, wo practice karo. Can you start doing humming? Mom, EFT karo." So it really builds that beautiful bond also. So parents have to really work on themselves. And again, that is where inner child work or inner child therapy is extremely important. Just to tell you, so at Wellness Space, all these free webinars, my social media handles are all for awareness building. We do workshops, talks, and trainings as well. In fact, day before I was at a workshop in Ahmedabad where I was addressing mothers. Then I went to Bhubaneswar, I was addressing moms there. In Bangalore, I was addressing moms there. So we are doing a lot of work to work with parents and mothers specifically to build awareness around childhood trauma, around parenting. Also research based awareness. So we are not talking spiritual or metaphysics here. I have a lot of respect. I'm not saying it's not okay, it's wrong, but we do all research and evidence based work, and that is what we also train in. Right. So we have a positive parenting workshop that is coming up in, as you see, in December. We have a self-regulation technique workshop that is coming up in October. And we also have the same one in Hindi, which is also coming in October. We really, really believe that if parents are self-regulated, half the job is done. अगर आप खुद अपने ट्रिगर्स को न्यूट्रलाइज कर सको, अगर आप खुद अपने माइंड बॉडी अपने अपने जो गन पाउडर से भरी हुई फाइलों को समझ सको, तो बहुत लाइकलीहुड है कि आप अपने बच्चों को काफी अच्छे से बड़ा कर पाओगे. पर अगर आप ही में अवेयरनेस नहीं है तो फिर आप बच्चों में ज्यादा कुछ नहीं कर सकते. अभी जस्ट रिसेंटली आई हैड अ कंसल्टेशन विद अ मदर एंड शी वाज लाइक, आई वांट you to help me fix my daughter, my son, and my husband. I'm okay. And I said, well, that cannot work, right? Now, so this is all self-regulation. But when it comes to parenting, I would also like to point that most of our responses and reactions as parents comes from our implicit memories. So we have implicit and explicit memory. Implicit memory is a body memory. It is your every experience is stored in the body as an emotion, as a feeling, as an experience. And it is this implicit memory that is the source of your unconscious automatic behavior. जैसे मुझे मम्मियाँ बोलती है कि मैम मुझे पता है, मैंने आपकी बहुत रील सुनी है, मुझे पता है कि हमें बच्चों को मारना नहीं चाहिए. पर मेरा बच्चा ना जब जब चिल्लाता है ना तो बस मेरा हाथ उठ जाता है. आई कैनॉट स्टॉप माई सेल्फ. दैट इज इम्प्लिसिट मेमोरी. इट इज अनकॉन्शियस. The mother is very intelligent. She is an MBA. She is doing a corporate job. She is extremely intelligent. It has nothing to do with intellect and intelligence. But what is programmed in her body just comes out automatically. And logical mind is hijacked by this strong body memory. And this implicit memory start forming in the womb itself. Research today says that a child in the womb is already forming implicit memories of the sights, the sounds, the experiences and emotions that the mother experiences. And these become the foundation of your automatic behaviors, not your thought about rational behaviors, your automatic or unconscious behaviors. So when we do inner child work, we are actually working with the implicit and explicit memory. If you're only doing counseling or if you're only just reading books or listening to talks, largely you are working on your explicit memory, which is your logical, conscious mind. But we have to understand that a lot of our responses are coming from the body, automatic responses, and that is where work is required. When you were a child and you went through any traumatic experience, it would have got saved in your body and your mind. The mind's job is to say, अच्छा मम्मी मुझे क्यों मारती थी, मम्मी क्यों मार रही है, क्योंकि मैं मस्ती करती हूँ, मैं गुड गर्ल नहीं हूँ, तो मम्मी इसलिए मारती है, अगली बार मार नहीं खानी है तो मुझे गुड गर्ल बन के खाना खत्म करना है. दिस इज लॉजिकल माइंड. बट जितनी बार मम्मी मारती है उतनी बार बॉडी में जो होता है, that is your subconscious mind, that is your implicit memory. Helplessness, anger, shame, fear, that doesn't go anywhere. तो आप जब बड़े होते हैं, आपने अपने चाइल्डहुड के बारे में लॉजिकल काफी आपने कहानियां बनाई है, नहीं नहीं मैम मुझे मार बहुत पड़ती थी, बट सबको पड़ती थी, हम तो हंसते थे उसके बारे में, उसके बाद कुछ भी नहीं होता था। इमोशनल अब्यूज क्या होता है मैम? माँ बाप का तो काम है हमें टोकना, हमें रोकना, अगर हमें वो डांटते नहीं, अगर हमें पनिशमेंट नहीं देते मैम, तो हम कैसे इतने अच्छे बनते? ऑल दीज आर योर rational mind logical stories, but every time you are humiliated, shamed, isolated, punished, beaten up, what your body went through as a child, helpless, fear, shame, guilt is all stored in the body, and that needs to be released. That is something that can help if you do self regulation techniques, body work, as well as inner child work. Inner child therapy that we teach at Wellness Space and that we practice consists of working with that inner child part of the parent. तो पेरेंट के खुद का जो इनर चाइल्ड है, 5 year old who was beaten up, 7 year old who was bullied, 10 year old who was body shamed and called mota mota mota, that we contact that part of the adult's personality. We contact the inner child, we heal, we transform, and we integrate that learning and that reframing into the adult consciousness. And when inner child work is done, when you have healed all those inner child parts, you will find that you are becoming more and more the present adult. A lot of people say, "Man, I feel that I'm not able to be my 40-year-old self." Whenever कुछ मुझे कोई बोलता है ना, मेरा हस्बैंड ऐसा मुंह करके ये फ्रेज बोलता है ना, तो मेरा पता नहीं वो एक पार्ट आ जाता है जो इसे गुस्से वाला बच्चा हो या जो हेल्पलेस बच्चा हो। मैम मेरी जो 40 years की विजडम है सारी हाईजैक हो जाती है। तो when inner child healing is done, you have healed and integrated your inner child parts, you start feeling more and more your adult self. You are reclaiming fragments of your consciousness, which is wounded and traumatized or frozen. You are integrating it inside your present adult self. Lot of clients tell us we are feeling more empowered. We are able to choose our response. We are able to now respond and not react. Why? Because the triggering files have been neutralized. The implicit memories have been reassociated or overwritten. रिमेंबर यू कैन नॉट डिलीट द फाइल, डिलीशन पॉसिबल नहीं है हमारे माइंड में, पर हाँ उसको रीएसोसिएट पॉसिबल है, उसका रिलीज पॉसिबल है, उसका चार्ज रिड्यूस करना पॉसिबल है, उसका गन पाउडर कम करना पॉसिबल है। So this is the key step. This is just a screenshot of our manual of the inner child training program, where we have specific steps. We do the problem identification, safe space, anchor a positive emotion, work on the inner child, release the energy from the body, reframe in the mind. So we work at body level and at mind level, and we integrate into the adult consciousness. We have seen very good results. We have seen just after 4 sessions, we have seen improvement in the well-being, reduction in anxiety, reduction in depression, reduction in insomnia amongst our clients. Even if you see after 8 sessions, we have so some clients who have a higher trauma load, it requires more number of sessions, but वहां पे भी हमने बहुत अच्छा रिजल्ट देखा है। इनफैक्ट इसका भी हम रिसर्च पब्लिश कर रहे हैं। वी आर इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ पब्लिशिंग इट विद द अर्थ एसोसिएशन ऑफ रिग्रेशन थेरेपिस्ट। If you are somebody who wishes to learn inner child modality, then it is our module 3 in the 6 module curriculum that we teach at Wellness Space. This curriculum is recognized by 3 globally recognized institutes, which is International Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association, IMDHA, IPHM, as well as Earth Association for Regression Therapists. Why it is module 3? Because to do inner child work, you need to know some level of hypnotherapy work as well. So you have to ideally do hypnotherapy module and then do module 3. However, we also have non-hypnotic methods to do inner child work. So if there are clients who are not receptive to hypnotherapy, they can't even close their eyes, we can still do inner child work using affect bridges and using certain other modalities. So this is how this module is placed right in the center of the 6 module curriculum that we have, which is recognized by a lot of globally recognized associations. We also have positive parenting workshops that we do. So these are the module 2 and 3 dates that are coming up in October and November. We have clinical hypnotherapy happening in October, and we have inner child healing happening in November. Like I said, in this module, it's not just about learning the technique to do inner child healing. You're also going to learn theory like stages of psychosocial development of children, what is the childhood roles have to play, birth order से क्या फर्क पड़ता है, first born, second born, third born का क्या impact पड़ता है psychology पे, dysfunctional family system क्या है, उसका क्या impact पड़ता है, drama triangle क्या है, codependency क्या है. तो काफी आप इसमें से फैमिली और चाइल्ड साइकोलॉजी के कॉन्सेप्ट्स भी पढ़ सीखेंगे, एंड यू विल आल्सो लर्न हाउ टू डू inner child techniques. So in this modules, there are going to be demonstrations, which I would be doing and Gunjan would be doing. There would be practices that you would be expected to practice with each other to master this modality. As you see, we still have one more talk in this series. I would be putting up the recording of all my talks on YouTube, but the next talk, which is very interesting if you're a mental health professional, it is on inner child and complex PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. This is what is not taught in DSM, not covered in DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual used by psychologists. And even ICD-10 doesn't cover it, but basically Talk 4, Gunjan is going to be covering largely on PTSD and its connection to inner child work and childhood experiences. So this is all that I have to share with you as a teaser or as an introduction to the inner child work that we do. I'm now going to take your questions.
Before you open up, I have a comment. Some of you asked for doing some self-assessment on adversity and also on some of the measurements we do. Let me introduce Vipasha. Vipasha is sitting here. So Vipasha has prepared a questionnaire that includes adversity and parenting. If you want to participate, it's free. It gives you, and we can share with you, assuming it's a reasonable number of people, your assessment score, so you can use it. Just fill up this and put your name. Then we can send you that questionnaire, and it will help you see your ACE exposure, your parenting style, etc.
It is in the comments. The link is in the comments box.
In the comments.
So in the comments box. So please click on the link, open it, and fill up the form. And you can do that after the talk. But till then, anybody has any questions on whatever I covered so far?
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Who is this I'm speaking to?
This is Madhumita Mohapatra, ma'am.
Yeah, Madhumita. Okay, hi.
Yes, I'm a great fan of yours. I always watch your reels in the Instagram and also Facebook reels. So basically regarding this childhood trauma of the parents.
Yes.
Because I'm a teacher. Currently I'm based in Kuala Lumpur. But I have seen as a teacher, many of the parents, they are very well educated, they are very well informed, but still sometimes they make comments or they say certain things which are actually not appropriate for the child. And as a teacher, sometimes we fail to I personally feel that I feel that if I tell them something that this is wrong, they might feel bad or they may feel offended regarding this.
You should share research. In fact, a lot of my talks, lot of my reels, I've shared slides which have quoted research. So I would, so even before you continue your question, the first thing is show them some research. Tell them कि मैं जो कह रही हूँ अपना personal opinion नहीं दे रही हूँ, पर ये चीज हो सकती है.
Yes, ma'am. क्योंकि कभी-कभी ये होता है कि हम लोग को पता होता है कि गलत है, चाहे हमारे रिलेटिव्स भी कर रहे हैं, हमारे फ्रेंड्स भी अपने बच्चों के साथ वो करते हैं, तो हम लोग उनको कैसे समझाएं कि ये गलत है या what you are doing is wrong.
उनको अगर आप यही एक चीज बताओगे ना, जो मैंने स्लाइड अभी शेयर की है, जैसे आप देख सकते हो कि ग्लोबल रिसर्च, देयर आर मोर देन आई डोंट नो few hundreds of papers in the last 2 decades which say that childhood trauma or adverse childhood experiences have an impact on everything: mental disorder, health risk behaviors, physical disorder, criminal behaviors, and it is across generations. So it is not even the fault of the parents. Sometimes, like I said, most of them are operating in an autopilot mode. जो उनके दिमाग में जो फाइल्स भरी हुई हैं वो रिप्ले कर रहे हैं बार बार, तो उनको कई बार पता ही नहीं होता है कि वो अननोइंगली भी क्या बोलते हैं. राइट. तो ये काफी रिसर्च है इसके बारे में. अगर आपको काफी इसके बारे में पैशन है, इंटरेस्ट है, तो थोड़ा सा आप रिसर्च देखिए और फिर आप उनसे बात कीजिए. देखिए, जैसे मैंने कहा, पेरेंट्स ना कई बार डिफेंसिव बन जाते हैं, उनको लग रहा है हम थोड़ी ना गलत चाहते हैं, आप क्या कहते हो। बट जब हम उनको आराम से समझाते हैं तो उनको अपने बच्चे की, दे ऑल्सो बच्चे की भलाई चाहते हैं. मोस्ट ऑफ द पेरेंट्स हु बीट अप देयर चिल्ड्रन actually believe that that is going to help the child, right?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So that is the thing. So let's not judge the parents in that sense, but at the same time it is important that we educate them कि भैया ऐसा हो सकता है, right?
Yes, ma'am. And do you think that, ma'am, it is important for schools to organize such kind of workshops where teachers will also be aware of all these things? Because many times, as teachers, so many teachers also in educational institutions also, people are not aware that actually this actually exists, and people have a long term
Yes,
effect of.
yes. 100%. इनफैक्ट लोग भी पता है ये भी सोचते हैं कि मतलब मैम आप ये कहते हो कि बच्चों को डांटना ही नहीं चाहिए, बच्चों को डिसिप्लिन नहीं करना चाहिए, ये भी नहीं होता है. एक्चुअली मैं हर जगह पे कहती हूँ कि देखिए, चिल्ड्रन नीड स्ट्रक्चर, चिल्ड्रन नीड डिसिप्लिन, चिल्ड्रन नीड consistency, children need to be told what to do, but the way you do it can be non-violent, can be positive, can be firm, and at the same time not abusive. The problem is टीचर्स और पेरेंट्स के पास टूल्स नहीं है, उनको समझ नहीं है. और अगर टूल्स और समझ भी है तो खुद अपने इंपल्सिव बिहेवियर को कंट्रोल नहीं कर पाते, क्योंकि जो सेंटर ऑफ इंपल्सिव बिहेवियर है एमिगडाला, ये ओवर एक्टिवेट हो जाता है जब खुद का ट्रॉमा होता है. और जो प्री फ्रंटल कॉर्टेक्स और इमोशनल रेगुलेशन सेंटर्स हैं ब्रेन के, वो अंडर डेवलप रह जाते हैं because of their own trauma. So if parents already have a trauma brain which is bottom heavy, high likelihood they will not be regulated. They will, आपकी सारी जो एडवाइस है, रिसर्च है, गाइडेंस है, वो भी जैसे मैंने कहा वो बिल्कुल यूजलेस हो जाएंगे. तो पेरेंट्स को खुद पे भी काम करना है, ये बहुत जरूरी है, वरना ये चीजें इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं हो पाएंगी.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right? Yeah.
And also
Anybody else
notice
has-
that not all the trauma components end up as long-term problems. We are inherently capable through simple mechanisms such as sleep, especially rapid eye movement sleep. So it is not that every trauma will linger forever. And the range could be 3 to 20%. So it is not always the case. So do not make every trauma as a life-threatening mental health issue. We are capable without anybody to sort it out. As long as the children get it. For example, perceived social support. Whether the support was there or not is not important. The child should perceive that I have support. And you can't just create perception forever. So you will have to provide real support.
So if there is social support, yeah, then there is a high likelihood that the impact of trauma will be reduced.
Second, resilience. Now, resilience, this is also talked in G20, so it's a common cliched word. The ability to bounce back from challenging situation can. Now, resilience doesn't mean you start first with 42-kilometer marathon and build resilience. Start walking 5 kilometers, then 10 kilometers, then 20, and so on. So build resilience in your children. Too late for us. If you have young children, please build resilience in your children so that they are able to cope better. Third component we are studying, not yet fully understood, but evidence globally says that, is the perceived loneliness. When the child feels isolated, which means, again, it's a component of social support, nobody available for me, that can also cause long-term implication, including, surprisingly, the world talks about sexual abuse, physical abuse, and yes, they have an impact. I talked last time. Emotional abuse and neglect are strongly connected as risk factors for suicide behavior or depression, not just physical and so loneliness. So remember three things. And beyond that underlying foundation that not every experience ends up as traumatic experience. There are multiple layers of things that can happen before PTSD kicks in. I hope that reassures you. So all we can do is provide support. The problems will exist, if not at home, in the school environment or in the workplace. How do we create that environment where the young children are encouraged to learn, encouraged to bounce back, and encouraged to seek help, and we provide help, will go a long way.
Yeah, so building emotional resilient children is very important. And some people, parents का एक बहुत twisted logic होता है कि बच्चों को मैडम हम नहीं मारेंगे पीटेंगे तो दुनिया तो मारने पीटने वाली है, तो हम ही उनको ऐसा अनुभव दे ताकि दुनिया में जाके स्ट्रांग बने. इट इज लाइक सेइंग कि मुझे मैराथन दौड़नी है तो मैं अभी से मेरे घुटनों के ऊपर थोड़ा सा इंजरी कर लूं तो मैं मैराथन अच्छे से भाग सकूंगी, ऐसा नहीं होता है। एक्चुअली आपको जिम जाके घुटनों को स्ट्रॉन्ग करना है ताकि मैराथन दौड़ सको, घुटनों को मार के इंजरी करके नहीं। पर पेरेंट्स बहुत बार ऐसी आर्ग्यूमेंट करते हैं कि मैम आपके कहने से तो फिर हमारे बच्चे तो सॉफ्टीज हो जाएंगे, अगर हम नहीं मारेंगे दुनिया मारेगी, कैसे झेल पाएंगे। तो देखिए, दुनिया का मार झेलने के लिए बच्चों को इमोशनली रेजिलियंट होना पड़ता है, एंड दैट ओनली कम्स विद सपोर्टिंग एनवायरनमेंट एट होम, नॉट बाय सेम एनवायरनमेंट एट होम. So this is also a myth. A lot of parents give this kind of, arguments all the time, and then we have to convince them as a nahi hota, right? So inner child work is all about working with this. Sometimes people think inner child means we work with children. No, inner child work we do not do with children, because children don't have adult parts. Inner child work is done to work with the childhood part of adults, which is damaged or hurt or traumatized, right? So that is how it is. Shruti is asking, what are the coping mechanisms of trauma? Yes, humor is a big coping mechanism. I know a lot of people who just laugh through their traumas. They laugh through their past experiences. Sometimes a coping mechanism could be overperforming in one area. So they channelize all their trauma and energy into coming first in school every time, or, always working very hard, overachieving. Sometimes coping structure could be excessive need to control, which results in compulsive behaviors like constant need to clean and lock the doors and that kind of stuff. Sometimes coping mechanism will also come as complete denial, like kuch bhi nahi hai. No, I don't remember. Coping mechanism can also be blanking out. I don't remember anything from my childhood. Everything was fine. Yeah. So these are coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms sometimes can really help a lot. Like I have many clients who said, ma'am, I felt so unloved. Nobody in my family loved me or cared for me. So there was domestic violence, physical abuse, neglect, everything. But I used to come first throughout my childhood. Why? Because that is the only thing that made me feel important and good. क्योंकि स्कूल में मुझे बहुत appreciation इसकी वजह से मिलता था. Great. ये चलता रहा throughout in college, work में. But now at the age of 40, he comes to me with severe panic attacks, anxiety, violent behaviors, because कांस्टेंट उसको फियर रहता है कि ये भी चला जाएगा, ये भी चला जाएगा, अगर इस बार मैंने आगे नहीं किया तो, इस बार टॉप नहीं किया तो क्या होगा, और फिर बच्चों पे निकलता है, बच्चों का एक्सपेक्टेशंस. सो this is how coping structures invariably will collapse in the long run. They help you sustain in the short term, but coping structures cannot stay for life. Most of the time they collapse, and when they collapse, the garbage comes out. And that is when people then take help, because then they realize, okay, I can't run away from this anymore. Eating is a coping structure. Workaholism is a coping structure. Alcoholic and smoking is a coping structure, right? Addictions are coping structures. These are all different kind of coping structures that people resort to. So I hope that answers your question. Shikha Batra is saying, can the earlier files of physical abuse be overwritten when parents? Yes, yes, absolutely. See, Shikha, the good news is, and why we are so passionate about doing this work, is brain is neuroplasticity. So brain's neural pathways and structures can be changed. They are continuously changing. So if you have done some wrong, you can change it. If your children are already adults, then as adults, they can take help and change those programs and files. Brain can be changed at any point. Yes, the older you grow, it becomes a little more difficult. That's all, because the neural pathways are more and more hardwired. But everything can change. At any point of time you decide to change, it can change. The only thing is, suppose if you have been a very abusive and violent parent, say till 14, and now suddenly you attend a workshop, and now you ekdam 180 degrees become completely, non-violent and permissive and nice, like that. Now 14 years of certain behavior, and then you change, the child gets extremely confused. Then the child will manipulate, use it against you, take advantage of you. So these also things happen. So we have to take it slow. Like, you know any change has to be brought about organically, in a slow way, because you are committed to change, but the other person who has lived with your behavior for 15 years or 10 years is not used to this change. Their system is wired according to your earlier behavior. So you have to give time to your children and your spouse to also adjust their neural pathways to your changed brain and behavior, right? So it takes time, and it has to be done gradually. It is not something that can change overnight. Okay, Anand, thank you for liking the session. My question is, at what stage of life, what age begins to realize? Oh, I have 15-year-olds who come to me with saying that, ma'am, I have trauma issues or I have panic attacks that are coming from childhood trauma. So awareness can come at 15, it can come at 50, and there are even 70-year-olds who have zero awareness. So ऐसा कोई एज नहीं है. ट्रॉमा अडल्टहुड का भी होता है. बहुत सारी लेडीज मेरे पास आती है कि मैम सारा ट्रॉमा शादी के बाद ही शुरू हुआ. शादी के पहले कुछ भी नहीं था. शादी के पहले सब कुछ बहुत अच्छा था. सारा ट्रॉमा तो मेरा 22 के बाद या 24 के बाद ही हुआ. तो ये भी हो सकता है. पर मेरा हमेशा यही कहना है कि जब आप एडल्ट भी होते हो तो अगर आपका ट्रॉमा बैगेज है तो आपके एडल्ट चैलेंजेस के साथ भी आपका रेजिलियंस कम होगा. अगर आपका ट्रॉमा बैगेज नहीं है तो एडल्ट वाले चैलेंजेस भी आप बेटर हैंडल कर सकते हो. तो जो ट्रॉमा लेके आते हैं, दे आर लिटरली लाइक द मैराथन रनर्स हु आर ऑलरेडी कैरिंग 200 kilos on their back. Then they are bound to be slower, right? But if you have no trauma, then or less trauma, then you'll do better off even with adult challenges. Shadi ke baad, mother-in-law, father-in-law, all those issues can also be handled better if you have a lesser
They are
trauma
under
baggage.
adjustment disorders. So when a phase of life changes, that also causes trauma, not just childhood.
Yeah. So I think that's about it. It's almost 45 minutes, which is what was the time for this talk. Any more questions? Haan ji, Kavita ji. Haan ji,
Kavita ji.
please ask.
I was an authoritarian parent, an helicopter parent, and also an abusive parent while raising my daughter, and because of which she has anxiety, depression, and insomnia. And she is now 25 years old. And she just took a consultation with you yesterday. I think you remember her.
I will not share any, for privacy reasons, I do not disclose anything.
Okay, that's fine. So she had a consultation and you have advised her to take up a journey within first before starting a child therapy. And so now what my question is, so if I take the parent workshop, since my daughter is already 25, I've raised her, so will it going to help me?
No, I think if you do the self-regulation workshop, it will help you because that will help you in other relations also. It will help you see the journey within that I was talking about, which is the self-regulation workshop. That is for everybody, irrespective of whether you are a parent or a child, because that helps you to self-regulate yourself. Parenting workshop is for parents of small children. It is. Your daughter is 25. She's an adult and she's already taken that step to take help. So now her healing is her responsibility and her job, not yours anymore.
Okay.
Also, if I can add,
your job is healing yourself. So you will benefit from the journey within, and so will she.
See, some of these things accumulate over decades.
Okay.
So expecting it to be sorted in 6 months is like wishful thinking that I can be at two places at the same time. You'll have to recognize that this is an ongoing journey. And we have so many cases when there is a continuous help available, we are able to help. I'll talk that in the fourth talk where we talk about functional impairment. So almost always when we work with client over longer duration, we come with problems. So it's no different than saying this room has horrible flooring. So let's fix the flooring. We fix the flooring and then we come back and say, I think it's time to fix the wall paints also. Then we change the wall painting, then say, the table is old. Shouldn't we change the table? That's a continuous process. As long as people don't come back with the same problem. Oh, the whole thing, flooring has not changed. We need to redo the flooring. That's a problem. That is something we hardly see. The journey is continuous. And because of the trauma, the mindset becomes that my life is full of problems, which is not really true. It is not. But the flashback rules the behavior. And therefore, people think I'm still there. And in reality, people have moved. And this is most common discussion we have when somebody comes up after a year. And within 5 minutes, we start laughing. Oh, life has changed so much. But I have the table and I have the walls. And the door also can be changed. Yes, of course, we want to change.
Okay.
But Kavita ji, it's very good and it's courageous that you have admitted that you have made a mistake and you have actually taken steps to, get your daughter to take help. That's really incredible because that is what is needed. In fact, half the job is done when even parents admit that they have gone wrong. A lot of children heal when even they listen to parents who can say, okay, listen, I'm sorry, I lost it and I've not done something right. But now, You are an adult. It is in your hands to heal yourself. And that is a very important conversation. And I'm very happy that you even admitting it on a public platform is not easy, and you've done it. That's great. So pat your back, love yourself for that. And I also would say, Kavita ji, that your behavior with your daughter would 100% have come from your own childhood experiences, one way or the other. It may not be direct, like I said. जरूरी नहीं है कि अगर आपको मार पड़ी है तो आप मारेंगे, बट अगर आपको मार पड़ी है तो आप कुछ और तो करेंगे ही करेंगे जो उसका आउटकम है, बिकॉज आज न्यूरो साइंस भी सपोर्ट करता है. तो यू ऑल्सो हैव टू हील योर ओन इनर चाइल्ड, कविता जी. आपके अंदर जो आपका बच्चा है, अनहील्ड बच्चा है, जिसको शायद बहुत डांट पड़ी थी, या जिसको अनलव्ड फील हुआ होगा, जिसको इनसिक्योर फील हुआ होगा, जिसको ऐसा लगा होगा कि मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकती हूँ या मुझे कोई प्यार नहीं करता, उस बच्चे को आप हील कीजिए तो आपकी रिलेशनशिप आपकी बेटी के साथ बहुत अच्छी होगी. बिकॉज when you are also healed, see, most mothers want to heal their children, but I always tell them, first heal yourself. यार बच्चों को मतलब सब माओ का इतना वो है ना, सेल्फलेस डिजायर है कि मेरे बच्चे ठीक हो जाए. अरे भाई, बच्चे तो ठीक होंगे, पहले आप ठीक हो जाओ तो बच्चे के आधे आधे बच्चे उसी से ठीक हो जाए.
Okay, so
right?
you suggest me to take which course, ma'am?
This one which I'm sharing on the screen, the journey within, the same that I shared for your daughter. Do that because it will give you a lot of evidence-based approaches to mind-body healing, mind-body medicine. उसके बाद अगर आपको लग रहा है कि आपको खुद के inner child healing करना है, तो हमारा module 2 और 3 कीजिए, where you can actually heal your own inner child part in the module. Or you can take therapy or become a case study for one of our therapists. They can work with you. There are various ways to do it.
Yeah, that's what. While rising up, I was not knowing. Like, I didn't do anything intentionally. So I was like, yeah, that's what. So I admitted, like, I honestly told my daughter, like, and I also asked her forgiveness. Like, I said, sorry, I didn't know what I was doing was wrong. So,
no. Like I said, ma'am, I'm a parent to 2 kids and I've done a lot of shit myself when I was not aware, right? But the point is that when we become aware, we stop doing that and we help our children to overcome it. So my daughter also takes therapy sessions for some of the shit that I may have done with her unknowingly, and I'm okay with it. I'm just helping her and supporting her to do that. So that is important. But I should also know that why I am doing it. You know, like that could also be because my own parts are not healed. So that is very important. Yeah.
That's what
and I really from the core of my heart believe that unless a parent is really mentally unstable, 95% of parents do the harm unknowingly, in fact with good intentions. In fact उनको intentions वाकई में बहुत अच्छे होते हैं कि मेरे बच्चे को सबसे अच्छा होना चाहिए, मेरा लो सेल्फ एस्टीम है तो बच्चे का नहीं होना चाहिए, मैंने सफर किया तो बच्चा नहीं सफर करना चाहिए. नो, दिस इज द सो इंटेंशन कभी गलत नहीं होती. इनफैक्ट जब हम एज क्वेश्चनर भरवाते हैं ना मैम लोगों से, तो आधे से ज्यादा लोग गलत भरते हैं बिकॉज दे आर वेरी प्रोटेक्टिव अबाउट देयर पेरेंट्स, स्पेशली टीनेजर्स तो अपने माँ बाप के बारे में बुरा बोलते ही नहीं है. फिर हमें पहले बताना पड़ता है कि वी आर नॉट जजिंग योर पेरेंट्स, वी आर नॉट जजिंग योर फैमिली, वी आर नॉट जजिंग योर देयर पेरेंटिंग स्टाइल. We just want to objectively understand what went on when you were growing up and how it may have affected your brain development and your psychology. तब जाके वो लोग थोड़ा सा, तो बच्चे भी प्रोटेक्टिव होते हैं. कितने भी आपने अब्यूज किए हैं, बच्चे मोस्ट बच्चे नहीं बताते हैं कि हमारे माँ बाप ने ऐसा किया. इनफैक्ट वो लोग काफी माँ बाप के लिए एक्सक्यूजेस बनाते हैं कि माय मॉम वाज गोइंग थ्रू डिप्रेशन, और माय मॉम हैड issues with my dad, or my mom had this stress, that stress, that is why she was abusive. And I'm like, yeah, that I get it, I get it. But
I told her before her consultation with you, I told her you have to be open or else they won't be able to assess you properly. How deep is your trauma? So you have to tell, like, whatever it is about your mother, about your father, you tell.
See, this is the change we are seeing today, thanks to awareness and social media and talk. This is not something, ma'am, that I would have heard of 10 years ago when I started this journey. Okay, तब तो लोगों को बहुत समझाना पड़ता था, but now so many people are becoming aware. It's a very good sign. It's a very good sign. Yeah. So great. Any other questions? I think one question, last question I'm going to answer is, yes, Darshana, man, absolutely. Relationships are a reflection of our inner self. Absolutely, 100% right. Anand is saying, in the trauma healing modalities, do you believe belief is more important than awareness? See, awareness and belief go hand in hand, Anand, because आजकल लोगों को अगर आप डेटा दिखाओ, रिसर्च दिखाओ, अवेयरनेस बढ़ाओ, तो बिलीफ आ जाती है. बट बहुत गिने चुने ऐसे होते हैं, लाइक 100 में से एक आध क्लाइंट हमने ऐसा देखा है जिसको डिजायर भी है हील होने का, बट जो मोडालिटीज को एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर पाते, उनको बड़ा वियर्ड लगता है, स्टूपिड लगता है, सिली लगता है, एंड दे आर नॉट एबल टू हील देमसेल्व्स. बट आई बिलीव दैट इफ यू educate the clients, then belief will come. I mean, belief, ये मोडालिटी ऐसी नहीं है कि रिसर्च बेस्ड नहीं है, ये रिसर्च बेस्ड है, तो फिर बिलीफ का कहाँ सवाल आता है? बिलीफ और फेथ जहां आता है जहां पे कोई रिसर्च नहीं है, कोई डेटा नहीं है, कोई लॉजिक नहीं है, वहां पे बिलीफ काम करती है, राइट? फेथ काम करता है. बट वेर यू शो रिसर्च, लॉजिक, डेटा, वहां पे बिलीफ और फेथ आ ही जाता है. अगर नहीं आता है तो कोई और सेकेंडरी गेन्स कई बार होते हैं जिससे उनको हील नहीं होना होता है. But most of the time when we share information, educate the clients, they are very open. And we only take on clients who really want to heal themselves. We don't take on people who've been sent by somebody. मतलब मैं आई हूँ क्योंकि मेरे हस्बैंड को लग रहा है कि मेरे को प्रॉब्लम है और मुझे ठीक करना है, तो मैं उसको खुश रखने के लिए आई हूँ, क्योंकि अगर मैंने थेरेपी नहीं ली तो डिवोर्स दे देगा. तो ऐसे केसेस हम नहीं लेते हैं. या मैं इसलिए आई हूँ क्योंकि मेरी मम्मी ने मेरे को भेजा है, या मैं इसलिए, एवरी पर्सन हु कम्स टू अस वी चेक वेदर दे रियली वांट टू हील देमसेल्व्स और नॉट. Otherwise it doesn't work, right? Okay, so I think that's it for today then. Thank you for being here. Just to let you know that where's the slide for the next talk? So we are going to have the next talk, which is when, 1 second, I'll just, yeah. The next talk is on 2nd of October, गांधी जयंती के दिन हम ट्रॉमा के बारे में बात करने वाले. वाह भाई वाह. गांधी जयंती वाले दिन 5 से 5:45 we are going to talk of complex PTSD, implications of trauma, and PTSD, CPTSD, ADHD, BPD वगैरह, and उनका क्या कनेक्शन है. अगर आप मेंटल हेल्थ प्रैक्टिशनर हो, साइकोलॉजिस्ट हो, या मेंटल हेल्थ फील्ड में हो, या जनरली क्यूरियस हो, तो जरूर आइएगा. It will again be the last talk of this series on inner child and complex PTSD. So with that, thank you very much. I hope this was informative, and
Thank you, ma'am.
take care. Yes, take care. Have a